More than 2 weeks after the US presidential election, Donald Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, has alleged there was centrally planned fraud in Democrat-supporting cities which cheated the president of victory. He put forward no evidence to back that up. As COVID-19 infections rates continue to soar in the US, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has urged Americans not to travel for Thanksgiving in a week's time. An investigation into the conduct of Australia's special forces in Afghanistan has revealed evidence of dozens of unlawful killings. Australia's Chief of Defence Staff said some patrols took the law into their own hands. And Mike Pompeo has become the first US Secretary of State to visit the Golan Heights and a Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank. Israel is occupying both sites in breach of international law.
United States, the number of deaths linked to COVID-19 passes 250,000. The disease has infected 56 million worldwide. Ethiopia's military accuses the head of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, of supporting the main party in Tigray. Tedros is a former Ethiopian minister. Russia releases a video showing its forces controlling an area between Armenia and the largest city in Nagorno-Karabakh. And U.S. lawmakers nominated Nancy Pelosi for another term as House Speaker Wednesday.
We start with the coronavirus situation here in Japan. Officials confirmed more than 2,300 cases across the nation on Thursday, a new daily record, and the continuation of a worrying trend. The daily count first crossed the 2,000 threshold on Wednesday, but numbers have climbed even higher, spurred by record tallies in several prefectures. Tokyo confirmed 534 new cases on Thursday. It's the first time the figure has topped 500.
I'm really scared. We might be urged to stay home again.
I'm very worried because I'm pregnant. I'm scared to go out now. There is no telling where I might contract the virus.
Experts monitoring the situation in the capital call it a rapid spread. They say the latest 7-day average is about 326 daily cases, up from 244 the week before. The metropolitan government raised its alert to the highest of 4 levels for the first time since September. It's not asking businesses to reduce operating hours. But the governor is calling on residents to take care when they eat in a group as people begin planning year-end get-togethers.
We advise people with pre-existing conditions not to dine in a group. Anyone who lives with family members who are at a higher risk of falling seriously ill are also advised to refrain from such outings.
Osaka, Aichi, Hokkaido, and other prefectures also reported a record number of daily cases on Thursday. The ongoing spike has prompted more people to get tested. A clinic in Tokyo says people with minor cold-like symptoms are asking for a PCR test just in case. And the doctor says she's noticing a trend among those who test positive.
Most often, they say they don't know when or how they contracted the virus. Most of those who do know say they were infected when eating out.
The recent surge comes as residents take advantage of government subsidies on dining, lodging, and transportation. Some are concerned the Go-To Travel and Go-To Eat campaigns could be risky. But leaders of the governing coalition say programs to boost the economy should continue with thorough antivirus measures. The United Nations Children's Fund says people under the age of 20 account for 11% of all coronavirus infections around the world. It's calling on government leaders to ensure all children have necessary resources amid the pandemic. UNICEF expressed concern over COVID-19's long-term impact on children's health and education in a report released on Thursday. It says disruptions to critical health care for children, such as routine vaccinations, pose the most serious threat. The report notes more than 260 million children are missing out on meals because of school closures. The organization suggested if basic safety measures are in place, the benefits of keeping schools open outweigh the costs of closing them. Johns Hopkins University in the United States reports there are over 56 million people infected globally. A total of 1.4 million have died. The Japanese government is sounding the alarm about Chinese movements in its territorial waters and nearby. Japan says Chinese patrol ships have probed areas surrounding the Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea on 300 days so far this year. Japan controls the islands. China and Taiwan claim them.
The situation is extremely serious. Japan Coast Guard patrol vessels are issuing warnings to Chinese ships in these waters, and Japan has lodged a strong protest through diplomatic channels.
The Japanese government maintains the Senkaku Islands are an inherent part of Japan's territory in terms of history and international law, and there's no issue of sovereignty to be resolved over them. NHK obtained and analyzed tracking data of Chinese ships which chased off Japanese fishing boats in the area. That includes this incident. A Japanese fishing boat filmed the Chinese ship in July as it blocked its path.
I was afraid, knowing my small boat wouldn't survive a collision.
Expert analysis suggests the boats deploy a strategy of intimidation, traveling in groups, and making complicated moves that are hard to predict.
It's very important for those on site not to react to China's provocations. Japan needs to get the rest of the world involved in this issue.
Sources with knowledge of Japan's Coast Guard tell NHK it seems as though the Chinese ships are testing Japanese responses. This comes as China's bold moves in disputed waters attract international attention and condemnation from the United States. Moving now to the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. The leaders of 21 countries and territories have begun a virtual summit. Chinese President Xi Jinping warned against protectionism in a global economy shattered by the coronavirus.
We will not reverse course or run against historical trend by decoupling or forming a small circle to keep others out. We welcome cooperation with every other region, country or company that wants to do so.
The statement was seen as veiled criticism of the United States. President Xi has said China will continue to open its markets wider and contribute to global economic recovery. He said market openness is one of China's basic policies and will not change whatever happens. The summit is expected to adopt a joint statement on Friday. It remains to be seen whether members can find ways to cooperate on rebuilding economies hit by the pandemic. The Australian military says it's found credible evidence its troops in Afghanistan unlawfully killed 39 prisoners, farmers, and other civilians.
Such alleged behaviour profoundly disrespected the trust placed in us by the Afghan people, who had asked us to their country to help them.
The general apologized to the people of Afghanistan. A 4-year inquiry looked into the conduct of Special Forces personnel stationed there between 2005 and 2016. Australian soldiers reportedly killed dozens of people outside the heat of battle. In some cases, junior soldiers were coerced into shooting a prisoner in order to gain their first kill. There have been growing calls to investigate since Australian public broadcaster ABC reported on the potential war crimes in 2017. Last week, Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced the government will set up an independent investigative task force to look into the allegations. Medical researchers here in Japan have unveiled data that may encourage cancer patients. Cancer is the country's #1 cause of death. But the researchers say the proportion of people surviving 10 years after being diagnosed has grown. The researchers work at organizations including the National Cancer Center. They analyzed data on more than 94,000 people diagnosed with cancer during a 4-year period until 2007. They found the proportion who'd survived 10 years was 58.3%. The proportion for the previous 4 years was lower at 57.2%. Now, the 10-year survival rate differed between one kind of cancer and another. Prostate cancer was highest at nearly 99%, followed by breast cancer at nearly 87%. Pancreatic cancer was lowest at about 6%, followed by liver cancer at about 16%. Nakamura Yoko is one of the researchers. She's encouraging people to have checkups.
Survival rates are improving year by year, partly because of effective treatments. But I think some people are hesitant about having medical checkups and going to hospitals to see doctors because they are worried about catching the coronavirus.
Nakamura says early detection and treatment are essential. In other news, a novel by Japan-based Korean author Yu Miri has been awarded one of the most prestigious literary prizes in the United States. Yu's Tokyo Ueno Station won the prize for Best Translated Work at the National Book Awards. The novel was originally published in Japanese in 2014. It tells the story of an elderly man from Fukushima Prefecture who had moved to the capital to work and support his family. Instead, he spends his days in Ueno Park. The novel depicts in detail the life of the homeless, highlighting inequalities widely overlooked by Japanese society during years of economic growth.
The
global pandemic is growing, and there's the problem of people being marginalized by society. So my story seems to have been read with sympathy around the world.
Yu moved to Fukushima 4 years after the region was hit by the 2011 earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear accident. Next, an anti-fraud campaign by Hong Kong police has been attracting attention for the wrong reasons. Earlier this month, police in Hong Kong unveiled the campaign's mascot called the Little Grape. Its name features the same Chinese characters as Kamado Tanjiro. He's the main character in the Demon Slayer movie that's become a hit in Japan and other Asian nations. Some people on social media say the similarities go much further. They see a near-complete copy of Tanjiro in grape form. Hong Kong pro-democracy activist Agnes Chow tweeted she's saddened Demon Slayer is becoming a tool for the territory's police. Local media say the force insists the Little Grape is their own original creation. Switching gears now to the weather, many residents of the Tokyo metropolitan area spent Thursday in fewer layers under temperatures more like September. But as our meteorologist Jonathan O explains in our World Weather Report, changes are in store as we head toward the weekend.
Hello, it looks like that we're going to be dealing with a cooling pattern as we go through the long weekend coming up. Japan having a 3-day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday because of a holiday for many folks. And in the process, we are looking at colder weather to come in. Now, we did see some warm temperatures that felt like September, but the sights are on Tokyo on Thursday looking definitely more like fall, and it's going to feel more like fall as we go into the first part of next week. There's that cold front. That's going to bring a chance for some rain from the north down toward the south. Tokyo mainly expect to be cloudy, but can't rule out the possibility of a shower or so as this front pushes through. So you'll need the umbrellas from Hokkaido to the Tohoku region, even to the western portions of Japan. You're going to need it. Osaka looking at some rain coming up on Friday. Now, take a look at this. Big temperature drop coming up. Sapporo down to 4 for the high on Monday with a chance for some snow coming up. Mid-teens for the high in Tokyo by Monday, which is close to normal for this time of year. Osaka also getting into the mid-teens as we go through the weekend. Meanwhile, we are looking at some snow into the northern areas of the Rockies, while we're seeing some stronger winds that impacted portions of the southwestern areas of the United States. And over into Nevada, we had some strong winds as well. Take a look at this video showing you the impact of those winds as firefighters had to tackle blazes in southwestern Reno that threatened some houses due to the wild winds. The fire department asked people to voluntarily evacuate their homes, and an elementary school had to be placed on a precautionary code yellow lockdown due to the threat. We're also talking about some highway closures as well. Now, things should be calming down in terms of the winds for the western areas of the United States. Cold front pushing through the central portions of the country as well, but up toward the north, a low pressure system will be rolling through, and that's going to bring the chance for some snow into places like Winnipeg as we go throughout the next couple of days.